Hey guys, so this week you are doing some basic HTML code, and I've already gotten some questions about how to do it. So I just thought it'd be cool to do a guided do this along with me. So hopefully you have about 20 to 25 minutes to work on this with me. Hopefully the video won't be that long, but that's how long it should take you on average. So first, you should have watched the previous videos that I made about the different software you should get for the course and how to kind of navigate the course and what text to read. For Module 1, you should have read all of that information, and quite frankly, it's a crap ton of information. And a lot of it is what you need to know if you want to be a professional web designer. But if you want to kind of do freelance and web design on the side, some of that is not stuff that you need to know until you actually need to know it, like when it's talking about like server-side script and all that other kind of stuff. So it's good to know, and it'll help you with the quiz this week. But in general, the stuff you want to pay attention to is the stuff about actually creating code and how do you create the files for code and using the code editor, etc. So make sure you do read it, but don't panic about it. So in this one, it's really important that you did the practice assignments because that really helps you to actually start coding. So I'm not going to explain everything as I go about this code because you should have already done that. So I'm using Brackets because it's the free editor that I think that most of you are using. So again, you could use whatever code editor you want, but this is the one that I'm using. And I usually have a browser window open next to my code editor so that I can easily see the instructions for the assignment. So I highly recommend you do that. And what we need to do first is create a folder because websites are just basically files and folders, and they all need to be contained. All your files and subfolders need to be contained in one folder per project. So if I did a project for like a school, like a website for a school, I'd have a folder for that school and all of its website pages. And if I did one for a flower shop, I would have a separate folder with all of its material in that folder. So it's really important that you do that. So I'm going to create a new folder here, and I'm going to call this Module 1 Assignment. Notice I don't put capitals, spaces. I use hyphens for spaces, which is the proper thing to do, and no special characters. So make sure you're following that guide. Same thing for creating file names. So in Brackets, I'm going to go to File, New, and it's going to create a blank document, but it's right now just making it a text document, and I need to change this to HTML. So let's change that there. And it's UTF-8, which is correct. And it looks like we're ready to go. The other things we do is I usually make sure it has word wrap. I like to activate or highlight the active line. And there we go. So now we need to save this. So let's do Save As. And we'll look over here and it says create an HTML page and name it htmlpractice.html. So cool. I'm going to find that folder on the desktop for Module 1 assignments and do HTML-practice. Okay. So again, no capitals, no spaces, no special characters, and it's going in that folder. So now we just need to start coding. There is a bunch of code that you need to have, including doc type, head, body, and you need to make sure that you have learned that and that you add it to your website. So I'm going to cheat, but you shouldn't cheat. You should actually try to code this, but sometimes it gets tedious to type all this stuff. But to make this go faster, we're going to go to the brackets and then see how it says code pen of basic HTML structure. We're going to go ahead and just copy this. And voila, we've got all of our basic code. Again, I highly recommend that you get used to typing that code, so don't be a cheater like me. Okay. So let's go back to our assignments. And remember that your assignments for this week is the basic HTML, basic page instructions, and the M1 quiz, which you can't see, but it is in fact down here. The M1 quiz. That's only 10 questions, and I do give you 2 opportunities, and it'll keep the one that has the highest grade. So try it twice. It doesn't have the same questions each time, but at least you get 2 opportunities. Okay, so again, side-by-side view. So this is the basic structure that you should have on every HTML page. Remember, the head is the stuff that we need in the background so that the browser understands this page, but it's not necessarily anything that the end user will see. The only thing they'll see is this title, which is basically what they would see up here. What they are going to see is anything in between the body tags. Now remember with HTML that once you open a tag, you usually must close it. So this tag is telling it that everything in here is the HTML language, so that the browser knows how to read it. It's not PHP, it's not anything else, it's just HTML. So the title again is this title browser thing tab at the top, and we're going to look for where it says what we need to put in there, and the body is what we actually see. So again, for this entire element, we have an opening tag and a closing tag, and we can always tell the closing tag because it has this / in it, and it's surrounding the content. So this is one whole element right here. So let's see what it says. It says it's time to create HTML, and let's see, use HTML5, which is what we're doing, and we can tell because this is just a simple HTML here. The old HTML had like this crazy long line of code that nobody could ever remember, and you know, it's just easier now with HTML5. So put your first name and your favorite color at the top in an H1 tag. So we already have an H1 tag here, so we're just going to put our name in here. So my first name is Jessica, and my favorite color is emerald green. So this is just to protect your privacy so that you don't have your last name out on the internet for whatever reason. Okay, so then it says create three entries for 3 fictional jobs. These can be as ridiculous as you like. Need some ideas? Try here or here. So let's just copy this text, and I'm going to put it after. And it says we need 3 jobs, so I'm going to paste it 3 times. Now this isn't right. This won't show up with structure because it doesn't have any tags surrounding it. So let me show you what this looks like. I'll go ahead and do File, Save, and then I'm going to go up to File and choose Live Preview. And it is going to open it up in like a bracket browser here. So as you can see, Jessica Emerald is huge, bold, because anytime you wrap something in an H1 tag, it automatically makes it look this way based on the internal style, like the rules that the browser has for what an H1 should look like. But here you can see that all of the jobs are just all in one line because they don't know where to break. The browser doesn't know how to display this content. So we have to tell it how to display that content. And we do that by actually adding HTML. So I'm going to go ahead and move this down here, and let's start doing that. So it says you need to create some fictional job duties. So in here, let's say I put my true job title, which is Marketing Manager, and I put my actual month and year, and you don't have to do that. You can make something up. So design stuff, animate stuff, and video stuff. So never put that on a real resume, but you get where I'm going with that. So then I do my second job, the other job duties, etc. So once you've filled all that content out, you need to make sure that you follow the directions about the code. So it says these entries should be unordered list. So that means that these entries right here, now you could put this as a part of the unordered list, but I think that's actually a title or a heading. So what I would actually do is I would make each job name an H2. Remember, you can only have one H1 on a page because that's the actual heading of the entire page, but you can have multiple H2s. And since I have 3 jobs on here, I am going to make these 3 H2s. And notice that it automatically adds the closing tag. And so if you already have your content in here like this, you need to put that closing tag at the end of it. It's important that you do this because if you were to put it before, this wouldn't show up as an H2. It would show up as just text that it didn't know what to do with. And if you accidentally put the H2 down here, it'd make all of this look like a heading 2. Well, what does a heading 2 look like? Well, let me go ahead and do save. And then when I come back to this live preview, it's going to show you that it's a little bit smaller than an H1 it's bold, and it stays on its own line because we put that H2 around it. So that's really important for you to remember, that when you're adding those tags, some of them are called block level elements, which means that they put themselves on their own line. If for some reason you did something like make a mistake and put this H2 at the end of this and save it and preview it, all of a sudden you can tell that all of the lines that should be 4 different lines are all in one, they're all bold, and they're all big. So that's where you can kind of tell visually that something is wrong with your code. So come back here and look at this section and find where that error occurred. Okay, so let's go ahead, save that, and get it back to where it should be. So basically just one more H2, and then cut that. All right. So now that we've done that, it says these entries, these job duty entries, should be unordered lists. So you went over unordered lists in the practice assignments. So if you don't know what it is, you need to make sure you review that, because lists are very important in web design. So I'm going to go ahead and type unordered list, which is UL, and an unordered list just looks like bullets. Unordered means that there's no specific order to them. So when they're bullets, they don't really have an order like 1, 2, 3 or ABC. Now, we're saying that all of this stuff makes up one unordered list, but we need to be able to tell all this stuff that each one of these are list items, and here's why. If I do save and come over here, it is, see how it's indenting it like a list might look? That's good, but they're still all together on one line. So by adding something called a list item, we're saying that this is like list item 1, list item 2, list item 3, and it actually breaks it into different lines. So for each one of these, I'm going to type LI, and notice for each of these that there are no capitals. That's very important. And they're always surrounded by angle brackets. So now if I go ahead and let's get that back over here. And sometimes it irritates me now, if you have like Sublime, this is better, like the indenting, but we don't have Sublime, so we have to deal with it, but it's not too bad. Okay. So there's a lot of copying and pasting. Notice that I didn't put list item 1, list item 2, list item 3, because if I did that, well, there's just no point in doing that, because I might move video stuff up in between and I wouldn't have to change all the numbering that's going on here. And it doesn't really do anything. And in fact, it's the incorrect code. So now when I save it though, you can see that we've got a bullet, a bullet, a bullet. Everything's broken up onto its own line. So this is looking a lot better. So the same thing with all this, and actually I would probably just copy this and paste it here and paste it here. And I would just come through and change whatever this is, add duty. So that way you don't have to like type all this code again. All right, so we've got that going on, and it's gonna look a lot better once I finish this. File save. Ah, there we go. So this is a lot easier for people to read. And now all this style with adding a bullet and indenting and breaking lines up and having different font sizes for like a hierarchy of information, that's all built into the browser, but we just had to tell it how to display it. It didn't know what it was until we told it what it was. So we told it, these are unordered lists, and these are the list items in that list, and this is a heading 2, so it should be a little bit smaller than the heading 1, and the heading 1 should be the biggest on the page because it's literally the heading for the entire page. So this is all working out great for us for right now. Okay, so then, sorry. Add a paragraph at the end, whatever you'd like to add. So you can do skills, you can do your education, about me, what are my goals and passions, whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and type my P tag, and notice when you type it and you don't have content, it automatically puts your cursor in the middle. So we can say something like, I have a bachelor's degree in blah, 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 and I have an associate's degree in blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you're gonna actually put something in there. You can put your skills. You can, like I said, it can be whatever paragraph makes sense for a resume. So we're gonna save that and see that it pops up here. And it should probably have an H2 because it's different. It's not, this paragraph is not about the job title, so I would put an H2 up there. But for now, that's not what's required of us, so we're gonna move on. So we want to create a small picture using Photoshop or a similar site, put the image in the same folder as your practice one, put the image somewhere on the page. Okay, so somewhere in my computer, I have a crap ton of downloads. Oops. Let's see, downloads. All right, there's my instructor photo. It's a huge photo, but it is in fact a huge photo. So I would probably open this up in your photo editor if you have Photoshop. There's a lot of different photo resizers online too, but I'm gonna go up to image size, and it's 1000 by 1000. We're gonna make it 250 by 250 and make it small, and then do file, export, save for web, and we're gonna save this. Well, I don't want to save it as a GIF. It makes me look super pink. Just as a JPEG. Not like that really changed anything, but okay, so we're going to find that same, so wherever you, however you save it, crop it, resize it, you need to save it to the exact same folder as your HTML practice. And I'm going to make my life easy and just make this a simple jessica.jpg. Okay. So now that that's in there, if I open up that folder, you can see there's jessica.jpg. So where do I want to put it? Well, you can put it anywhere you want. I think it makes sense to put it right under the heading 1. So here's the thing. Images have to be in a paragraph. Even if there's nothing else in that paragraph, ignore what your English teachers say that a paragraph has to have like 5 sentences. In HTML, that doesn't matter. A paragraph is just basically a block that lets this be on its own line. So by putting it in a P, it lets that image be by itself underneath the heading 1. So now we're going to put the image tag, and we're going to put source equals quote quote. And then we're going to choose Jessica. And notice, see, it tries to help you, but sometimes it's tricky. So the quote has to go around the name of the file. If I accidentally put JPEG and it's actually .jpg, it won't show up. If I only put one S on accident, it won't show up. If I change this file name after the fact to Eddington or instructor.jpg, it won't find it because it's looking for something called jessica.jpg. So that's why you have to be really organized before you start coding this, because then you're going to make a mess for yourself later. So now with that in there, and we actually need the closing, because an image tag is one of those weird ones that they don't actually have a closing tag because it just is calling this file onto the page. So hopefully you read that content. So look, as I hover over it, it shows you what picture it's trying to find. So now again, if I do save, and where's that live preview? What did I do with it? There we go. So now you can see there's H1 with my name. The image had worked. So again, if you tried something like, if you accidentally spelled this wrong and saved it, you're going to come over here and see a broken link. And that's because there is something wrong. You either you misspelled it, or it's the wrong name, or it's in the wrong location. So that's why you got to keep it in the exact same folder as this file so that it works, and it has to be exactly the same name. The place where it usually goes wrong is people have JPEG, and your computer saving it as .jpg, and some computers don't show this extension. So if you can't see the dot extension, then you need to Google how to make that show up on your computer. So Windows hides it for everybody, I believe, and I don't think Mac does, but I think it has the ability to. So just know if you can't see the extension, you need to go online and search for your operating system how to show file extensions. Okay. So this video is getting pretty long. I don't want to take a ton more of your time, but the other thing is, so it's saying you have to have doc type, HTML head, title. Ooh, we should probably put our title in here, and Jessica resume. So again, file, save, Jessica resume. Haha, it's working. And then, so it has body, H1, H2, unordered list, list item, paragraph, and image. We've got all of that, so cool. So now we just need to put some CSS, and it says to put this CSS in the head tag of your page. So we're going to find the head tag, and right after the title, we're going to put a couple of spaces and, oops, did I not copy that? I guess not. Copy and paste. So what this is going to do is it's going to turn the page background black. It's going to make, I don't know why we have a background of white in the body and a background of black in the HTML. That's weird. So we're going to do file, save. So as you can see, the HTML is black right here. And then the body of the page is right here. And all of a sudden, this H1 is super tiny. And that's because, let's see, this width is 500. So let's change this. Let's change this to 800. Or 960 is probably a better width. It's a standard width. So we'll save that. There's 960. Change this to another color than white and a different width. So let's just do pink just to see what happens. And remember, you have to save it in order for it to show up. Okay, so then you know it's working. Now, if you hate that color, that's fine. You can change it to whatever you want. But I like to do garish colors so I can see if it's working. All right, so H1 should be much bigger than anything else on the page. So it shouldn't be smaller than the paragraph. So I'm going to change this to like 35. See what happens. Okay, that looks pretty good. And font size, I actually like to do 11, but it gets really, really small. So, well, see, it's already almost 11. So let's just leave it at 16 and save. So how do we see how that's changed? This is the paragraph right down here. So sometimes I do like massive just to make sure it's working. Aha, it is working. So we're going to go back down to 16 for this. File, save. Okay, so I think that's all we were supposed to change with those. So, oh, this shouldn't be 16. Let's go ahead and make it 12. File, save, because it has to be something different than what you started with. All right, so change the font size of H1 and paragraph. We did. Change the background color to something other than white. Make sure the type is still easily readable. So we wouldn't want to put like blue. Well, like a color that's dark. This is really hard to read, so be careful with that. The thing you could do with that is you could actually give this a rule of color white and put a semicolon after. What the color property is basically the color of all the text. And we put it in the body tag because it's going to affect all the text, not just the paragraphs or just the H1s. So we'll get into CSS a lot more in future class sessions, but there you go. Okay, so this is getting really long. I'm sorry if it's too long for you, but hopefully it really helped those of you who are struggling. So this is basically your assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and file, save. This is done. This would be perfect. So this now is your entire practice folder, and you need to send this zip file to me. So on a PC, it's a little bit different, but I'll show you on a Mac how to zip a folder. There are two things you can do. I can be inside of this Module 1 assignments and right click and choose compress, but what I actually like to do is just compress this folder. So I'll right click it and choose compress Module 1 assignments. When I do that, it creates this zip file, and you want to send just this zip file to me. Now, PC people, you can do the same thing. Right click on your folder, and instead of choosing compress, I believe it's like send to, and then it'll have like a flyout menu, kind of how you see on, let's see, like if I click share, you can barely see that. There's like this flyout menu. You're going to choose send to and then compressed folder, and you'll send me that zip. So when you're done, then you're going to come back into the class and look for the assignments page, or you can stay in that module, and we'll click here, and here's the rubric to make sure that you're doing it correctly. Add the file. I'm going to look for it on my computer, and I can just drag and drop this, which is sweet, and then add it. Let me have a note if you struggled with something, or you want to explain something that went wrong, or something that you did, so that I can fairly assess you, or even if you just have questions that maybe you need me to answer sometime next week. So add that note, then hit submit, and there you go. So this is a confirmation saying that you did actually submit it. Usually I tell students, take a picture of this just in case something happens, so I can see when you submitted it and what time it was. And it usually sends you a confirmation email, so keep that as well. And we're good to go. So if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll try to address them in next week's videos.